My name is Kwame Anthony Appiah. I have the honor of being the president of the PEN American Center, and my job is to welcome you all here this evening to this annual Literary Awards ceremony. We're particularly excited about this year's awards, not only because of the astonishing caliber of the people who are going to get them, but because this is next year will be our 90th anniversary, and this year is the 90th anniversary of the original founding of the International PEN Center. And in honor of all that, we've asked everybody who's going to come up here to receive an award to speak for a maximum of 90 seconds to keep a theme of 90-ness moving along through the evening. I was instructed to do that, to tell you that, but then given a list of tasks to perform that I'm not going to be able to carry out in 90 seconds. So I want to apologize for doing what professors often do, which is telling you to do something that they don't do themselves. What ties all the work of PEN together, whether we're defending free expression or supporting translation or working for literacy, is the broad aim of nurturing literary culture. And by publicly honoring the writers, editors, and translators who create the works we read, we celebrate connections between readers and writers, connections that shape our literary community, both here and around the world. And it's our hope that the awards will sustain writers with the respect and gratitude that we all owe them, as well as helping to bring them to new readers. I also have to give now a series of thanks to all of the people who make this occasion possible. Beginning, of course, with the judges. We owe thanks to the many outstanding judges who are themselves distinguished writers and editors and translators, many of whom devoted dozens, sometimes hundreds of hours to reading and deliberating about their choices, and their names are all in here in this connection with each of the prizes, and for those of you who don't read paper anymore, they're also on the web. We'd like to thank also the committees, the Literary Awards Committee, the Children's Book Committee, and the Translation Committees, who found us the judges. We're very grateful always to so much of the work of the organization is done through our committees. We must also thank our donors, and we're particularly grateful to the generous donors and partners who endow these awards. I'd like to thank in particular those who I think have joined us in the audience tonight. Joan Bingham, Clara Bingham, and Vanessa Lilly, who fund the PEN Robert W. Bingham Prize. Phyllis Naylor, who funds the PEN Phyllis Naylor Working Writers Fellowship. John Skipper, John Walsh, and Gary Hennig of ESPN, who are responsible this year for supporting a brand new award for lifetime achievement in literary sports writing. And we're joined as well, I think, by Barbara Lee, I haven't seen her, Barbara Lee Diamstein and Karl Spielvogel, who this year revived an award honoring the essay form after a 5-year hiatus, an award which I'm particularly fond and which I aim to be in competition for in the coming years. We need also to thank CUNY and Bauman, our two sort of major sponsors, because of the event itself, because of course the CUNY Graduate Center gives us this wonderful auditorium, donates to us the use of this lovely space, and so we should thank them, Chancellor Goldstein and President Kelly, who are responsible for making the decision to do that. We also would like to thank Bauman Rare Books, which has donated a gift to the winner of the PEN Pels Award for a Master American Dramatist, David Henry Hwang, who will actually be the first to receive his award tonight for a reason that somebody will explain to you later. And there'll be a couple of other small changes to the program, so we have got a thing for you to follow along with on the screen. So when people appear, the theory is that there will be an explanation of who they are, along with a picture of a book and many other fine words. I would like to add to the thanks that the staff have asked me to make, my thanks to the staff, who both our professional full-time staff and the many volunteers who help us with all our events, but in particular with this one. And so I hope you will agree with me that they also deserve to be added to this list, though they didn't put themselves on it. Finally, I'd like to thank Nicole Krauss, who has agreed to introduce this evening's honorees for us. As you know, she's the author of the international bestsellers Great House, which was a finalist for the National Book Award and the Orange Prize, and The History of Love, which won the William Saroyan International Prize for Writing, the Prix du Meilleur Livre Étranger in France, and was shortlisted for a number of other major prizes. And her first novel, Man Walks Into a Room, was a finalist for the Los Angeles Times Book Award for First Fiction. In 2007, she was selected as one of Granta's best young American novelists, and in 2010, The New Yorker, which surely everybody in this room reads, named her one of the 20 best writers under 40. So you know her for that reason, as well as for having read her novels and her short stories as well. And it's a great, we're very grateful to her for having agreed to set us off this evening, and I'm very grateful to you for listening to those more than 90 seconds, and also to everybody here this evening for making what I hope will be another wonderful PEN Awards evening for us. Good night, and God bless.
Thank you so much for inviting me to join you tonight. It's a privilege to be here under PEN's roof and to take part in honoring this group of really outstanding writers. Reading their work, it's clear that none of them cares much for small talk or petty inessentials. Their work lies in the heart of the matter, and so in keeping with the spirit of their writing, I'll get right to the point. Things seem to be changing for those of us who have staked our lives on literature. The value of the literary mind appears to be in doubt. As Nicholas Carr writes in his book about how the internet is changing our brains, there's a growing suspicion that its worth has been overinflated, that surfing the web is a suitable and even superior substitute for deep reading and other forms of calm and attentive thought. From this larger reconfiguration of values, many others necessarily follow. Speed trumps reflectiveness, information unseats analysis, the rewards of convenience win over those of difficulty. Though no one would claim to value rancor, this reordering of ideals has come at a cost to empathy and compassion, which are more sophisticated mental processes, and therefore, as neuroscientists explain it, inherently slow. These shifts are clear, we notice evidence of them everywhere. But something else is happening too, more subtle and easily overlooked, but whose consequences might in the end be most profound. Little by little, it seems, we're losing our tolerance for the unknown. And as it goes, so goes our tolerance for literature. Uncertainty, doubt, questioning, these are the innermost workings of literature. They are the writer's true instruments. Is there any other mechanism that can sustain such extended and complex examination of ambiguity as the novel? That is what it was born for. In the digital world, ambiguity is a bug or flaw to be worked out. In literature, it's a chance to expand the definition of being. The world as ambiguity. That was Cervantes' gift to us. The writer advances in the spirit of unknowing, and only in this way does he eventually arrive at insight and meaning. And yet the truth of the novel, and the poem, and the short story is always undeclared because it is undeclarable. Its special grace is to clarify without reduction. It isn't quick, concrete, comfortable, or convenient. But so far it has given us the fullest record we have of human experience and aspiration. To have as one's only certainty the wisdom of uncertainty. The words are Milan Kundeра's, but I sense they could belong to any of the writers we've gathered to honor and celebrate tonight. If more and more their methods and goals are at odds with the larger trend, then they can only be more valuable to us, not less. So valuable that we cannot fully know ourselves without them. We are enormously indebted to PEN for the work they do, and have been doing for 90 years, to protect the values that literature instills in us, and to all of you for your support of that work. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And I'd like to now introduce Thomas Lynch, who will present the first award of the evening.
Thank you. I'm Tom Lynch. As a designer for the stage. I'm particularly happy to be able to present the award for dramatist tonight. It's a remarkable thing to be able to work with a writer, particularly on new pieces, new work. Part of the reason that tonight's program is going out of order than what's in your program is that there's a new work being presented this very night on Broadway, and the winner of the Laura Pell's Penn Award for Master Dramatist of the Year, David Henry Hwang, is going to his second preview of his play Chinglish, which is on Broadway tonight. So he'll be leaving, he'll be bolting out of here. He'll get this award, he'll get this prize, he'll be gone. I do want to note also that coming out right after this, there will be another small change. I'll be presenting two awards tonight. The Penn Laura Pell's International Foundation for Theater Awards are for Master American Dramatist and for a playwright in mid-career. The former goes to David Henry Hwang, and as a commemorative gift, he's receiving a limited edition of Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire, donated by Bauman's Rare Books. David has long been one of the outstanding voices in writing for the stage. As a playwright, he has helped shape the direction of American theater and performance for more than 30 years. He has garnered 3 Obie Awards and a Tony, twice been named a Pulitzer Prize finalist, and received many other distinctions. From his playwriting debut with a groundbreaking FOB at the Public Theater in 1980, to the hugely acclaimed M. Butterfly in '88, to his most recent Chinglish, which was premiered first at the Goodman Theater in Chicago. We're so glad to have it here. It began performances 2 nights ago, and Hwang has done the remarkable with these plays and many others over and over. He has offered us a window into other lives that turns out to be a mirror. He melds the personal and the political in ways that honor both while sacrificing neither. Chinglish is among his finest works to date and a truly marvelous play that's both the embodiment and culmination of the broad range of works he has produced over his much-lauded career. And those works are in opera, they are in television, they are in film, they are in musical theater. In the words of one of his peers and former mentees, the playwright Julia Cho, David Henry Hwang is a deeply American playwright in every sense of the word, relentlessly curious about the forces that make us who we are and wholly unafraid to examine what being American really means. David, please come up and join me. I am so honored, David, to give you this award.
As a first-generation Chinese-American kid who went into theater, when I entered the field, there were a couple things I had to get used to. One was everybody hugging, because we didn't do that when I was a kid. And the second was enduring praise, because if Chinese people, if someone praises you, you're supposed to go, oh no, that's not true. And then having worked in the theater for a while, I began to realize that the absence of praise was worse. And so I began to really appreciate it. And so this award and the citation and your being all here tonight to join us is just agonizingly wonderful. Plays are literature, and I thank Penn for recognizing this. I thank Laura Pels for endowing the award. But plays are literature in retrospect. As you know, I'm going to preview tonight. We're going to see things, we're going to tweak things, we're going to change a lot before the thing opens at the end of this month. So as part accepting this award, I have to do so on behalf of my collaborators who have helped make these works literature. The actors who allowed my characters to possess them, the directors who brought my plays to life, and the producers who gave us a place to play, going all the way back to Joseph Papp, who took a 22-year-old kid, gave him a production at the Public, and gave me 2 pieces of advice. 1, you can write comedy, so you'll probably survive in the theater. And 2, you'll probably get better looking as you get older. I also have to thank my wife, Catherine, who over the past 22 years has contributed greatly to my work and gotten little credit. And thank you to the committee, to Penn, who decided I was old enough for a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I just really want to give all of you a big hug. Thanks.
The second award for the mid-career dramatist goes tonight to Marcus Gardley. Marcus is a playwright of enormous distinction and a very unusual voice. He's often called a poet-playwright, and for good reason. His work seamlessly moves from the everyday language of America to the poetic, almost to the aria. I would say I happen to design a lot of opera, and the marriage of recitative and aria seamlessly is something that I think that can happen, not often, but does happen in playwriting in a dramatic situation. And it happens in Marcus's work. He's a very young man. He wrote his first play barely more than a decade ago as an undergraduate at San Francisco State University. In the short time that's elapsed since, he has written and produced more than half a dozen plays, including On the Levee, which premiered at Lincoln Center this summer and was nominated for 11 Adelco Awards, including 1 for Outstanding Playwright, and Every Tongue Confess, which premiered at the Arena Stage in 2010 and was nominated for the Steinberg New Play Award. I also had the honor to design that play. We're not trying to rush Marcus Gardley. We know he's nowhere near the middle of his career. We look forward to many more decades of his plays. Our choice of Marcus Gardley in mid-career category is driven by the recognition that his voice is like no other. And his voice, it makes for mesmerizing theater. At the same time, his plays involve closely observed characters we know and recognize, stories that often spring from known events, and language of the everyday seamlessly turned into the language of poetry, resulting in dramatic work with resonances far beyond the realistic. As an artist of growing skill, he shows us who we are, our minor ambitions, our smaller and larger tragedies, sometimes redemptions, all with a unique and prophetic voice. Marcus, please join me on the stage.
Good evening. In my family, there were no playwrights or poets. There were no writers. There weren't even any artists. In my family, if you are male, you tend to end up one of 2 things: a Protestant preacher or a wise drunk. So you can imagine the scene I caused at a family reunion when I declared I was going to be a playwright. As my brother put it, it was the only time the preachers got drunk and the drunkards caught on Jesus. I thought the preachers would praise God for me because preachers tell epic, incredible stories. And I thought the drunks would raise a glass to me because drunks tell incredible, slightly inappropriate stories. But instead, these men told me they had higher hopes for me. They had hoped that I'd be something greater, but I didn't want to be, nor could I be, greater than who they are to me. I wanted to be like them, for they are the greatest. And the more I write, the more I realize that I am just like them. I am a drunk because I'm wasted on the world's tears and tipsy anytime I hold stories that must be told. I'm a preacher because I shout that story on stages and from rooftops and try to baptize audiences in those tears or get them roused enough to wipe a stranger's eyes. I am a drunk preacher, and tonight I am intoxicated with gratitude to receive this pen. Because of it, I can write the men in my family and tell them, see, I have done good because you are indeed great. I thank Laura Pales and the PEN American Center for this honor. It means a great deal to me. Thank you.
I have to announce that there's already been a tragedy here on stage tonight. And that's that Marcus's certificate has gone off that fast with David to the theater. They were stapled together.
That's no problem.
So we'll find it.
Okay.
We'll rush after him.
Okay. No problem.
Congratulations, Marcus. There's another small change tonight to the run. There's another small change to the order tonight from what is in your print programs. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Benjamin Taylor, who will be presenting the PEN Weld Award for Distinguished Biography.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of judging this year's PEN Jacqueline Bograd-Weld Award with two extraordinarily distinguished biographers, Brad Gooch, Amanda Vail, and I thoroughly loved working with them. I would also like to salute the runners-up. They are Wendy Moffett for A Great Unrecorded History, A New Life of E.M. Forster, and Justin Spring for The Secret Historian, The Life and Times of Samuel Stewart. I believe that Wendy Moffett is in the audience. May I ask you to stand, Wendy Moffett? This year's winner is Cleopatra, A Life by Stacy Schiff. Cleopatra, A Life is less conventional biography than epic prose poem, a tale to be told by firelight. Under the spell of Stacy Schiff's bardic powers, one forgets everything but the glittering, inexhaustible drama of the last of the Pompeys. It is a song of blood-curdling nerve, calamitous passion, and everlasting glamour. In bravura prose, Schiff writes about a figure veiled in her own immense legend, known to us only through fragmentary and tendentious ancient sources, more floating aura than specifiable woman, more sheen than substance. And yet, what this biography renders is no Hollywood fantasy. Instead, we get the forever conjectural, but in this book, somehow fully dramatized Greek-speaking queen with the hook nose, strong chin, incomparable riches, and strong appetite for power politics. Here is life writing built to last as long as the pyramids. It's my great honor to present this year's PEN Jacqueline Bograd-Weld Award to Stacy Schiff.
I'm not Chinese American, but that is one hell of a citation. Thank you. I'm thrilled to find myself in the company of Wendy Moffett and Justin Spring, and I'm particularly honored to be placed among them by Ben Taylor and by Amanda Vail and by Brad Gooch. three people who make biography look sublimely effortless, which in my experience it is not. Tell me if you feel differently, but in my experience there are only 2 pages of a book that really write themselves. Those would be the dedication and the acknowledgments pages. So it's a huge and a double indulgence to be able to rewrite them. I want to thank my husband, Marc de la Bruyere, who encouraged me to write about Cleopatra, advice that I took by devoting 5 years to a book on Benjamin Franklin. And I'd like to thank Eric Simonoff, to whom I finally took the Cleopatra idea, for not having laughed me out of his office. This was after his asking me what kind of documentation there was, and my answering, none. I want to thank Michael Peach for any number of things, but particularly for having ruined my 2009 Christmas vacation with his editorial notes. Michael seems not to have got the memo that publishing is a business that's meant to work at a glacial pace. And I remain in awe of the entire Little Brown team, grateful for everything, but mostly, of course, for the tweeting lessons. Heather Fain, the ever good-humored and brilliant Terry Adams, Nicole Dewey, Vanessa Karen, Amanda Tobier, Amanda Lang, the incomparable and inexhaustible and about to be married Liz Garriga. They set the gold standard. And I mostly want to salute creative director Mario Police. He put a cover on this book by which even the author hoped it would be judged. And tonight it is. I am very well aware that the Penn Jacqueline Weld Award for Biography is this year the Penn Jacqueline Weld Award for the most dazzling jacket design. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Susan Cheever, and I'm here on behalf of myself and my judges Paul Harding and Yi-Yoon Lee to present the Penn Robert Bingham Prize. It's a tremendous honor to be here, as everyone has said, and we had a stack of books the way many of us judges did, and it was a very, very hard decision to make. Many of them were extraordinary. The Penn Robert Bingham Prize honors exceptionally talented fiction writers whose debut work, a first novel or collection of short stories, represents distinguished literary achievement and suggests great promise. The prize was established in memory of Robert Bingham by his family to commemorate his support of young writers, his love of literature, and his contribution to literary fiction. I'd like to recognize the award donors who I think are in the audience, but I can't see anything. Joan, Clara Bingham, and Vanessa Lilly, can you guys stand up, or can we just clap for you, wherever you are? Hi, there they are. I'd also like to name the runner-up for the award, who wrote an incredible, this was such a hard decision, who wrote an incredibly funny and moving book called Cappy Toil, and that's Teddy Wayne. Are you here, Teddy? And this year, because it was such a hard decision that we actually couldn't make it, we decided to split the prize, and the Binghams very kindly allowed us to do this. So we chose 2 winners to share the prize, Susanna Daniel for Stiltsville, her novel, and Danielle Evans for Before You Suffocate Your Own Fool Self, her stories. Susanna, I don't know if you're supposed to, come on up. Why don't you both come up? Whatever, do what Elena tells you. So now she's going to die of embarrassment while I read how great her book is. And it is great. The story begins with Frances Ellerby's introduction to Stiltsville after she meets a new friend at a wedding and sweeps forward through time, lighting up hundreds of startling, touching details, from the confusion and certainty of falling in love, to the confusion of raising a daughter, to the certainty of love in unbearable circumstances. Writing with intimacy and tenderness of memoir, Susanna Danielle has created a continuous dream out of the wild colors of South Florida and the drama of ordinary women's friendships, sustained marriages, and rich family connections. Susanna, let me give you this.
Thank you, Susan and the other judges. I don't know when I'll be comfortable with praise, but I'm hoping it will be one day, maybe if I have more practice. Also, thank you to the Binghams and for their generosity, and to the PEN American Center. The writer William Maxwell, one of my all-time favorites, once was asked what he would tell his mother if he could, if she were still alive, and he said, "I would say, here are these beautiful books that I made for you," which is something that always stuck with me. And I, if I could, would say that to my late mother, but because I write about marriage and family, I'd like to say it now to my husband, John, who's in the audience, and supports me incredibly in so many ways, and to my 3-year-old, August, who is not in the audience. Lucky everybody. And to the son that we're expecting in a few months, the family that hinders me from writing as much as they help me write, or help me write as much as they hinder me from writing. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Susanna. And now Danielle, Danielle's Stories, Before You Suffocate Your Own Full Self. It's so much fun to say that title. Danielle Evans writes unflinchingly about those who are separated by race and class, and those who are trapped in between. In so doing, her stories, like those of her literary forebears, elevate the consciousness of humanity. By mapping out the familiar and the strange, the changed and unchanged territories of American life, these stories, in the end, are about how America is remaking itself in the 21st century. Congratulations.
Hi, I'd like to, I'm really honored to be here, to be getting this prize, to be sharing the prize with Susanna, whose work I really admire. Thank all of you for being here. Thank you, Bingham family, for your tremendous generosity. Thank you, PEN American, for this prize and also everything you do to keep literary culture alive in this country. I have several theories of the universe, and one of them is, when in doubt, quote James Baldwin. So Baldwin says, if you're going to be a writer, there is nothing I can say to stop you. If you're not going to be a writer, nothing I can say will help you. What you really need at the beginning is somebody to let you know that the effort is real. And there are so many people in this room who've helped me to understand the ways in which the effort is real, who've helped me through that effort. So thank you to Riverhead, which has been so great with this book. Thank you to my wonderful agent, Aisha Pende, and my editor, Sarah McGrath, who I think are both out there somewhere, though I cannot see anybody with the glare. Thank you to my parents who are here, who I called in tears at some point in college, having exhausted my willingness to pretend that I wanted to do something practical with my life, and told them I wanted to be a writer when I grew up, who essentially said, well, then I guess you better stop crying and write something. That kind of gave me that permission I needed. And thank you all for being readers, because that's really important.
Hello, I'm Richard Panik, and I'm here on behalf of my fellow judges, Rita Charon and Bill McKibben. The PEN E.O. Wilson Literary Science Writing Award, which is being offered for the first time this year, celebrates writing that exemplifies literary excellence on the subject of physical or biological sciences. It was founded by scientist and author Dr. Edward O. Wilson, activist and actor Harrison Ford, and the E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation. The runner-up for this award was David Abram for Becoming Animal, and I understand that he is in the audience, if he could stand up. The winner of the Penn E.O. Wilson Award is Siddhartha Mukherjee. Through a mosaic of the history of medicine, patients, clinical narratives, a young doctor's autobiography, and expository science, the Emperor of All Melodies offers a complex and comprehensive review of the past and present and future of cancer. The medical literature now has a definitive book on the subject, and the non-specialist reader now has a means of even beginning to think about it, not just what cancer is, how it works, and why a cure is elusive, but its popular and political and philosophical lineages. Siddhartha Mukherjee cannot be here this evening. He had a long-standing prior commitment to accept another award in Washington. I don't think we should hate him for that, actually, but accepting on his behalf is his editor, Nan Graham.
Sid is a man of astonishing multiple talents and ebullient in every pursuit, but he can't be in two places at once, even he, to his great dismay. He did send some words. It gives me immense pleasure, Sid says, to be honored with the first Penn E.O. Wilson Award for Science Writing. There is some strangeness in calling E.O. Wilson a science writer, which seems to me a little like calling Macbeth a play about Scottish kings. In his far-reaching, thought-changing books like Sociobiology or Consilience, Wilson has written about science, but his work has reached into the depths of human behavior, biology, culture, and the future of the planet. Through these powerful works, he has demonstrated again that genres do not define books, rather books define genres. But Wilson is also a science writer, and it is undeniably true that he has changed the very idea of science writing. In receiving the very first Penn Wilson Prize, I also note Penn's vision and support for intellectuals and writers like Wilson. I admire Penn and Wilson deeply, and I am honored to be honored by these two giants.
Hello, I'm Lee Siegel, and I'm here on behalf of my two fellow judges, Charles Morris and Elaine Showalter. The Penn Galbraith Award is given every other year to a distinguished book of nonfiction possessing the qualities of intellectual rigor, perspicuity, there's an untweetable word, of expression, and stylistic elegance conspicuous in the writings of author and economist John Kenneth Galbraith. It was established by the family of John Kenneth Galbraith and Houghton Mifflin Harcourt and is sustained by a grant from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. I want to acknowledge this year's two runners-up, John W. Dower for Cultures of War and Isabel Wilkerson for The Warmth of Other Suns. This year's this year's winner is Robert Perkinson for Texas Tough, The Rise of America's Prison Empire, which is a very relevant book, no matter what happens to Governor Perry. It's a wonderful, thrilling book. It is not a nice book or a beautiful book. Rather, it is a shocking, honest, original book. Though a work of nonfiction, its style recalls that of Theodore Dreiser. Robert Perkinson's study of the Southern and particularly the Texan origins of our modern penal system is, like Dreiser's astringent naturalism, unwieldy, loose, and baggy. Yet it illuminates depths of human injustice with a raw power rarely seen in a work of nonfiction. Interweaving stories of inmates, prison guards, wardens, politicians, and policymakers, Perkinson exposes the deeply buried assumptions of racial superiority that still shape the most confident proclamations of American virtue. He demonstrates how far from being remedied and dispelled, segregationist sentiments are alive and well in the ferocity with which we consign black children to society's margins, and then sanctimoniously send them off to prison without any hope of redemption or mechanism for rehabilitation. For Perkinson, the policies that created America's prison system constitute the hidden underside of the American psyche. Freud believed that the manner in which a person had sex revealed his or her essential character. Perkinson's book proves that the way a society metes out punishment reveals its essential decency or lack thereof. Texas Tough is a masterpiece of detached historical research, cool social criticism, and unabashed personal courage. I'd like to present Robert now with his certificate.
Thank you. Thank you to my agent, Susan Rabner, who incubated this project and helped bring it to life. To my editor, Riva Hockerman, who's here, who attended to every word, including some 40,000 of them left on the floor. To my sister, Nishi, and my partner, Kieko, who helped me craft some of my favorite bits. And thanks to all of you, and to Penn, and to the judges, for this honor. It's a much kinder reception than I received by Texas prison authorities who banned the book for all units in the system. Mine is a story with an unhappy beginning, an unhappy ending, and many unhappy chapters in between. But I spent a decade with this grim material out of hopes that the world could somehow be different than it is today. That my unfree research subjects, many of whom became my friends and who walk my dreams, might someday be able to walk where they please. That the demagoguery and the callousness that propelled both of the major incarceration booms in American history, the first after Reconstruction, the second after Civil Rights, might loosen their hold on our politics. And that this peculiar and exceptional epoch in our history, in which the US alone among democracies has elected to lock up 1% of its adult population, in which young black men in America are more likely to go to prison in their lifetimes than graduate from college, might somehow be overcome. And that the good society that John Kenneth Galbraith envisioned might finally at last emerge. So thank you all for helping me mess with Texas, and may we all be a little less tough in the future. Thank you.
I'm Andre Asserman, and I'm here to present the Penn Diamonstein Spielvogel Award for the Art of the Essay, revived in 2011 after a 5-year hiatus, which aims to preserve the dignity and esteem that the essay form imparts to literature. I would like at this moment to recognize the fact that the award is sustained and founded by Barbara Lee Diamonstein and Carl Spielvogel, and I would ask them to stand up if they are here. The runners-up for this award are Elif Batuman for The Possessed Adventures with Russian Books and the People Who Read Them. I happen to be one of them. And Alex Ross for Listen to This, and I did. We all did. It was very difficult to choose. But I would like to name the winner of this award this year, and it's Mark Sluka for Essays from the Nick of Time, Reflections and Refutations. I'd like to sort of introduce some ideas that I had on the book. I remember when I framed a sentence, I wanted also to be persuasive with the other judges, and of course that's a conversation that one doesn't have here, since judges do disagree with one another, and they have all kinds of means of disagreeing and being hostile and being horrible. But these were wonderful judges, and we got along very well, particularly since I got my way. I would like to say a few words. A great essay is not an article or a review or an occasional piece, but is spiraling inward. Mark Sluka begins to prowl around a particular subject without necessarily knowing where he is headed. That's me too. But I stay there. Or how he'll go about getting there. But he always does, with one hope and with a disarming sense of trust in the very medium he's using, that the actual writing will, in the end, reveal something hitherto unknown. In this sense, Mark Sluka's collection, Essays from the Nick of Time, is truly an adventurous and bold book. They are personal essays, but personal in the least ego-driven and most enlightening way, as Sluka uses himself and his own experiences and ruminations only in the service of illuminating or illustrating ideas. And for the inquisitive mind, the reading of his essays is an experience in itself. They are literary in the highest term of the word, of brilliant quality and insight. The author's gifts as this thinker is evident on every single page. That each essay turns out to be exquisitely articulate and well-written simply proves the indissoluble connection between exceptional writing and exceptional thinking. Upon reading them, one has, as with the best poems or the great essays of Montaigne, experienced something quite unforgettable and yet thoroughly new. Thank you. Mark? This is for you. Thank you, Angell. You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. This is an honor just to state the crushingly obvious right from the beginning. I've thought about how to fill the unforgiving minute and a half. I thought about simply saying thank you or speaking very quickly. Thought better of it. I've decided to try to explain what this award means to me by saying a few words about two metaphors. When things are going well, I convince myself that even though we live in the Kardashian era, writers like the writers in this room hold a seat at the table for the soul, and that this is a good thing and a necessary thing. When they're not going so well, I feel like a 21st century roof thatcher. I may spend a lifetime trying to get better at what I do. I may dream of thatching a roof so well that, passers-by drop their cell phones and stare. But there seems to be less and less call for my wares. This is, by the way, how writers extend a metaphor until it's long enough to hang yourself on. Anyway, you go on. You do what you do, thatch your roof. And then one day your wife and daughter, you remember that day, honey, your wife and daughter find you at the shack in the woods where you work with the news that 3 other roof thatchers, masters of their trade, craftsmen you deeply admire, have complimented you on one of your roofs. And you stand there with this silly look on your face and realize that there are thatchers everywhere, great ones among them, that you're not alone, and that you're doing precisely what you should be doing. And that is a gift. So once again, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Philip Lopate, and I'm here to present the PEN ESPN Award for Literary Sports Writing, which honors a work of literary nonfiction on the subject of sports. And I want to recognize the donors who I believe are in the audience, John Skipper, John Walsh, and Gary Honig of ESPN. Would you stand and take some applause? The winner is George Dorman, who wrote Play Their Hearts Out, A Coach, His Star Recruit, and the Youth Basketball Machine. Our committee, I want to thank the other members of my judging committee, H.G. Bissinger and Madeline Blaze. And I should admit that our committee was a contentious lot, as you might expect, putting together 3 writers who are also rabid sports fans. But we were stunned into unanimity when we read this winning entry. It's an amazing book. George Dorman spent 9 years in this subculture, this world of its own, which bizarrely mirrors the larger world. And the depth of his reporting, the depth of his observation, and it gave us something that you usually don't get in a book that has a journalistic thrust. Which is a kind of, he got to know these people so well that, that it was impossible to see them in any but the most complex light. And in addition, because he knew them for so long, he was able to give a true narrative arc to several of their lives and to show how they collided and what came of that, of those interactions. And he also brought a kind of moral passion to the project, which was backed up by all the time he put into it, so that it's utterly convincing. In addition to all that, he's a superb prose stylist, and the book is a real pleasure to read. So, George, I don't want to go into overtime, so why don't you just come on stage and take your award.
Thank you to Penn and to ESPN, and to the judges, of course. The Californian in me would say that I'm just stoked that those 3 people read my book. It was 10 years, 1 month, and 12 days from when I started reporting this and to when the book came out. As you can imagine, during that time, I got a lot of assistance. There are 4 people that I'd like to single out. The first is Andrew Blauner, my agent, who's here tonight. He counseled me for 5 years before we even discussed sending it to a publisher. I was told that he was the agent you wanted working on your life's work, and I can say that that's absolutely true. Mark Tavani at Random House, I would love it if he could edit every word I write for the rest of my career. Terry McDonald, my editor, one of my editors at Sports Illustrated. He's the kind of boss who, the more ambitious the project, the more he encourages you. Lastly, my wife, who's here. The last 3 years of this project, she planned our wedding, she gave birth to a daughter, and she nursed me after brain surgery. Yeah, she's incredible. Our anniversary was yesterday, and we flew out here with a 2-year-old across country. So we're going to celebrate tonight, and I'm going to celebrate the fact that I have the best partner anyone could have. Thank you.
It's hard to follow that up, but I'm Lizzie Skurnick, and I'm here to accept the Penn Open Book Award on the behalf of my fellow judges Cornelius Eady and Nam Le. The Penn Open Book Award is for an exceptional work of literature by a writer of color published in 2010, and it's supported in part by the Rochelle Ratner Fund. I understand no one there in the audience tonight, but we'd like to thank them anyway. I would like to recognize our runner-up, John Murillo, for his poetry collection, Up Jump the Boogie. He's also not here, but yeah, he's really wonderful. And I'm just thrilled to announce that the winner of the Penn Open Book Award this year is Manu Joseph for his novel Serious Men. And
I'm a book critic, and there are some books that are so funny and wonderful you're scared to read them a second time because you're going to be too tough on them. And then there are some books that are so funny and wonderful you don't care and you just read them again immediately. And Joseph's book was like that for me. It's a book about microscopic aliens, racist Brahmins, fraudulently gifted children, ill-timed adultery, and the state of the gutter press. It seamlessly weaves these and other worlds together through the hearts of a dangerously human cast of characters who are both lifted up and undone by their desire and their ambition. It's the ripe human psyche, both fragile and triumphant, that Joseph illuminates and skewers with equal measure. And he's a new voice and a tremendously skilled one, that rare bird who can wildly entertain the reader as forcefully as he moves them. Accepting on the behalf of Joseph will be his editor, Amy Cherry. Amy, can you come up here?
I'd like to thank Penn and the judges on Norton's behalf for choosing serious men for this honor. And I'd like to remind you again that Manu Joseph's novel is a satire before reading the following words he sent to me. Since the award is for a writer of color, it is only fair that I introduce my color to you. It is the color of good coffee, not cappuccino or latte. My color is that of Madras filter coffee. I hope one day you will find Madras filter coffee in New York. I wish I were in New York right now. I wish that on all days. I have visited the great city only once in my life. I cannot say this to your immigration officer, but the truth is, I believe it is my home. I thank the judges, Cornelius Eady, Nam Le, and Lizzie Skurnick for this award, a fortune that has been reported in the Indian press with reasonable fuss. Even my mother got to know. I will always remember your names with affection. And I am grateful to the person who is my voice at this moment for taking a chance with an unknown writer from a faraway place and making me look good.
Good evening, I'm David Lehman, and it's my pleasure to present on behalf of the other judges, Reef Larson and Robin Rahm, a brand new tripartite award, the Penn Emerging Writers Award. There are three of them, one for a fiction writer of great promise, one for a nonfiction writer, and one for a poet. And we were delighted to have many excellent submissions that were nominated by the editors of literary magazines. I'd like to name the runners-up, all of whom impressed us greatly. Elliot Hult for her story, The Norwegians, which was nominated by Joel Whitney of Guernica magazine. Chester Phillips for his essay, Charging Lions, which Hattie Fletcher of Creative Nonfiction nominated, and Brett Fletcher Lauer for his poems that Rob Casper of Jubilat nominated. Would the three of you please stand and bask in the glow of... Now the three winners are supposedly on the stage with me, and they'll stand to the side of the podium. Each will come to the mic in turn as I present each of their awards. And as you see, that's exactly what has happened. The winner in fiction is Smith Henderson for his story Number Stations, which Hannah Tinty of One Story nominated. Now, we wrote very elaborate citations in praise of our winners, and I'll read just a very small portion. For you, Smith Henderson, we wrote that, like the crackling, codified radio frequencies of the title of your story, Number Stations, reads like a haunting, echoing warning shot into the night, ostensibly a portrait of tangled relationships in Big Fork, Montana, Your prose transcends this domestic scrum with your ferociously precise lyricism, stuttering canter step of your dialogue, and the depth of your damaged, wanting characters. Smith Henderson.
Thank you very much. I think I know what everybody's thinking right now, at least I am. Why do they all have beards? The good thing is you know, we may not actually come to an answer about that, but we're going to be around, and that's what this award is suggesting, at least. And you'll be hearing from us, and I love that feeling. So I'd like to thank the Penn Center for that. I'd also like to specifically thank One Story and Hannah Tinty and Marie-Helene Bertino for for not only publishing this story, which was a thrill, but for championing it all the way here. And I'd like to thank my family for their undeniable love and support. Thank you very much.
Our nonfiction winner is David Stuart McLean for his essay, The Answer to the Riddle Is Me. It was nominated by Lydette Randolph of Plowshares, and it's a great pleasure to single out the names of the editors in the literary magazines, since those editors are some of the unsung heroes and heroines of our literary culture. In his riveting personal essay, The Answer to the Riddle Is Me, David Stuart McLean writes with exceptional clarity about an episode of amnesia he endured while studying on a Fulbright fellowship in India. He writes in terse, taut prose that methodically reconstructs what the world looks like and feels like in this disoriented state.
So I got married 12 days ago. And this is the same suit I got married in. And so I thank you, Penn, for the scheduling, because it made it really easy to choose. And so no thanks could ever begin. I'm going to cry again. Before I thanked my wife, Emily Stone. I cry in front of her all the time. It's fine. I also thank Lydette Randolph of Plowshares for nominating me, an amazing magazine. And I also really... I went to University of Houston to study fiction, and I got a PhD there. And I got a PhD there by actually taking poetry classes. And now I'm writing nonfiction, the story that I had tried my whole life not to write about because it hurt too much. And so I thank you all for this award, because you have to make that step. So I want to thank everybody at the University of Houston. I want to thank Eleanor Jackson, my amazing agent, and my editor, Tom Bowman, at HMH. And I've been thinking about this award a lot. This is where I read this stuff instead of improvising. And I realized it's an award that would never be given posthumously. It's an award that by its name says that I haven't earned it, but that I will earn it. It's a challenge. It's asking me to do more and better work. I thank the Penn American Center for this award, for this challenge. I accept it, and I will try to do my best to earn it. Thank you.
The poet whose work we chose, and the competition was stiff, is Adam Day, whose poetry was nominated by Erica Wright of Guernica magazine. Adam Day's exceptional talent manifests itself in lyric outbursts, clever figures of speech, and a conceit capable of sustaining an extended sequence. He is unafraid to conjoin historical and fictional personages for effects that startle and provoke. His technical prowess, adventurousness, and wide-ranging curiosity give pleasure now and the promise of a great deal more to come. Adam Day.
I hope it's for you. Thanks. I want to thank everyone for being here, and everyone at the Penn Center and the judges, as well as the editors at Guernica, especially Erica Wright, who nominated my work I also want to thank my family, Elise and Alistair, who couldn't be here tonight, and my good friend David Allworth, who's here tonight and told me when he saw my outfit that I looked more like an undertaker than a poet, and encouraged me to wear the pink shirt. And thanks to his Colleen for making me dinner, because otherwise I would have actually passed out on stage instead of just fearing I'd pass out on stage. I'm really happy to be in the company of Brett Fletcher Lauer, too, whose work makes me happy every time I see it in a literary journal because it's so damn good. So it makes it that much more special that he's also someone who has encouraged my work in other ways I won't go into. Something I love about Penn and about the fact that I was nominated by Guernica is that these are two institutions that, to my mind, reach out into the world. They go beyond the idea of writing being something introspective, and I think that's really important. It's really important to me, and if my poetry is complex or successful, then I hope it's because it does that same thing. Thanks so much.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Cohen. I am here to present the Penn Translation Prize. I am one of the judges. Of the three judges, my fellow judges are Barbara Harshov and Sarah Khalili. Let me say a few words about the prize. It is awarded to book-length translations of belles letters. Actually, that's a bit off. Any genre, from any language into English. It is given annually to a single book that has been published in the previous calendar year. The prize has been supported since 1963 in recognition of the art of the literary translator, and it is the first American award to do so. I should also add that it now needs a sponsor to keep going. For this year's prize, we had nearly 100 books to consider, and we had to agree on the winner. In view of the beauty and the importance of this year's winning book, our task was not as painful as it could have been. There are two runners-up for this year's prize. David Bellos, for his brilliant translation from the French of Hocus Bogus by Romain Gary, as we say in the heartland, writing as Émile Hergard, and the second book, Malcolm C. Lyons with Ursula Lyons, for their fine translation from Arabic of the Arabian Nights, which should certainly replace the Burton translation that has been around for more than 100 years. Mr. Bellos, I'm told, is in the audience tonight. Sir, would you please rise and take some applause? The winner of this year's Penn Translation Prize is Brahim Muhawi for his translation from Arabic of Journal of an Ordinary Grief by Mahmoud Darwish. I'd like to read parts of the award citation. Brahim Muhawi has given us the opportunity to read in English the stunning testimony, Journal of an Ordinary Grief, by the great Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish, who sadly died in 1908 at the young age of 67. Originally published in Arabic in 1973, this collection of autobiographical essays is an extremely important book. It allows us to hear the voice of a people that must be heard, now in particular. Darwish's masterful, captivating, poetic prose reveals at once the personal and national experience of Israeli Arabs. Muhawi's translation is a triumph of language, beautifully written and based on a text from an entirely other linguistic world. It is a faithful literary translation of the highest caliber, that is artfully made of authentic speech with music and cadences true to the Arabic of Darwish. Again, every translation is written twice, first by the author and then by the translator. And so it is a great pleasure for me to invite to the stage now the translator of the great Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish, Brahim Mukawi.
Thank you very much. These are the words of Mahmoud Darwish. From the start, writing has shaped the other form of the homeland, not asking what lies beyond. The voice radiates out to borders that do not end and realizes that what lies outside is a vacuum. Palestine, which flows out of itself and our blood, which urges us to recast it with all the tools of the impossible, liberates us and holds us prisoner without giving us a way out. The battles do not end, and the language remains on end. These pages do not tell the whole story. They only set down the beginnings of a small voice that shook the rock a little. The homeland is distant and near, and in this everyday grief and everyday death, the writing gets written, or tries to get written, so that this ordinary grief may stop accepting being acceptable. I translate for the same reason that Darwish writes, to give voice to the homeland in the dominant language of the world, so that the ordinary grief may stop accepting being acceptable. I am grateful to everyone who was involved. The list is long in the production of this book, from the editors to my at-home editor, and the judges and the PEN committee. Thank you very much. I believe there is another prize given to another book of Arabic poetry. This makes it a good day for Arabic literature. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Martha Cooley, and it was my great honor this year to judge the PEN Award for Poetry and Translation, which recognizes book-length translations of poetry from any language into English. The award was created by a bequest from Ray Dalvin and is now sustained through a grant from the Kaplan Foundation. I'd like to tell you first about the runners-up for this award. There were three. Jonathan Galassi for his translation from Italian of the Canti of Giacomo Leopardi. Michael Hoffman for his translation from German of Angina Days by Günter Eich. And Charles Simic for his translation from Serbian of Oranges and Snow by Milan Djordjevic. Three wonderful books that I commend to you. The winner of this year's award is Khaled Matawa for his translation from Arabic of Adonis' selected poems. The richly varied poems of the Syro-Lebanese poet Adonis manifest high seriousness and deep playfulness at the same time, and remind us how usefully unbalancing of certitudes a good poem can be. As Adonis's translator, Khaled Matawa is wonderfully attuned to the poet's complexities of thought and feeling. Matawa's supple translations capture but never restrain the poet's underlying awe and delight in language, childhood's vividness, the mysteries of the self, and the dance of Eros and Thanatos. The translation's tones and cadences feel right and true, their compressions unforced, their images incandescent, their enigmas authentic. Matawa's renderings of this vital voice from the Arabic world are accompanied by a superbly informative and thoughtful introduction. Adonis himself has remarked that cultural identity is a perpetual movement, not a fixed point, and that the other, that is, a person or people we might be tempted to call foreign, is essential for who he himself is. I must go through the other, he has said, to go to myself. We owe Khaled Matawa our deep thanks for helping this perpetual movement to occur. And accepting the award on his behalf, we are very fortunate to have with us the novelist Hisham Matar, who will accept on his behalf. Thank you.
I don't think Khaled will mind me taking the money and running away. It's a real personal thrill to be here, accepting it on behalf of my close friend and compatriot, Khaled Matawa. And also a thrill because Adonis has meant so much to my generation of Arabic writers. It's astonishing that it took this long for this work to appear in English, that one has to conclude that the gods have been waiting for Khaled Matawa to mature as a poet. Khaled sent me a note to read to you. I'm delighted that contemporary Arabic poetry is being celebrated during the Arab Spring, to which the poets of the region have made essential contributions. And having won this award previously for Saadi Yusuf's Without an Alphabet, Without a Face, I feel nothing short of lucky to do so again. Most of all, I'm honored that this award is from my translation of Adonis. When I translated a few of his poems in the early 1990s, I knew that it would take a long time before I would be able to devote the long time required to tackle his formidable body of work. When the opportunity came through Yale University Press, to whom both the poet and myself are eternally grateful, Adonis made himself available for help with queries, welcomed my choices, sent encouraging notes, but never rushed or complicated the process. As I got to know the poet better, Adonis was always on time. He organized years ahead, stuck to his commitments, and remembered exactly what he promised. So impressive was his attentiveness and dedication that it began to seem as a kind of philosophy, where respect for one's commitments broadens to a respect for other humans, the short spans they exist, and the earth they inhabit, and a kind of poetics too, where art negotiates aspirations with reality, and where the body stands at full attention, always at the cusp of an idea. Translating Adonis has been a joy that is yet to end. Some of you have already learned that Adonis has just undergone surgery for a malignancy last week in Beirut. By all accounts, he is doing well and recovering comfortably amongst friends and family. Please join me in wishing him a speedy recovery.
Good evening, I'm Michael Moore. I know this is a moment you've all been waiting for. I have a long list of names and a very short amount of time to say them all in. And I always like to extemporize my remarks, but everything that's been said tonight has been so high-minded, and high-minded is not my style. I would like to add some levity to the ceremony, but the material that I have doesn't exactly lend itself to it. I have Swiss nuns from the Middle Ages. I have Swiss hipsters from the Dada period, an Albanian virgin, a Chinese bourgeois, a Brazilian shaker. I mean, just to give you an idea. But I'll try to hit things right down the middle, which is pretty much where translation is supposed to be. And I was thinking just of how inadequate the word is, in a way. And there's a couple of, in terms of describing what we actually do, I thought maybe I'll speak two different languages and try to swing it that way. But I was thinking of a couple instances in the press recently about cultural clash, and the reporting on the Amanda Knox story in Italy on both sides of the ocean was pretty repellent because of the stereotypes that they launched at each other. The DSK, Dominique Strauss-Kahn affair, a little bit less recently, which shows you also a huge difference in translation, because of course an affair in English and an affair in French are two very different things, although in this case they seemed to combine. And actually, when this story was translated to Law and Order Special Victims Unit, they decided to make Dominique Domenico. He is now an Italian. It seemed to fit more where we wanted him to be. But if you really want to find out about translation, I'd just like to send out a shout for a book recently brought out by one of the judges on the advisory board, David Bellows. I'm always afraid of getting the title wrong. Is it a fish in your ear? I keep thinking, is it a flea in your ear? Which is the way you burst someone's bubble in Italian. But my fellow judges, David Bellows, Susan Bernofsky, Edwin Frank, Michael Reynolds, Natasha Wimmer, and Jeffrey Yang are all translators or editors who deal often with translation. They're a very crabby but a very savvy group, and most of all very sensitive readers of a whole bunch of languages. The PEN Translation Fund is different than the other awards announced tonight in that it's given to a project, and it's given primarily to young translators, young in the generous romance sense of someone starting out, as opposed to young in the geriatric or in the chronological sense. And we have a huge variety of awards every year. We have recipients who have traveled from all around this year to be with us. First, I will just name the winners of the award. I was hoping my name would be up there, but no. Anyway, and the work, Amiri Ayana for the St. Caterinal Sister Book. Let me just add one more thing. The minute that we announce these awards, we start getting expressions of interest from various publishers. Almost none of them have a publisher, and it has been through this award that not only do their careers start out, but that we find publishers for works that are labors of love, that these people have loved the language, learned to love it, and brought out the literature which does break down those stereotypes I was talking about earlier. Amiri Ayana for the St. Caterinal Sister Book, The Lives of Sisters of the Dominican Convent at Diessenhofen. Neil Blackadder for The Test, Good, Simon Korach, a play by Swiss dramatist and novelist Lucas Berfusch. Clarissa Botsford for Sworn Virgin, a novel by Albanian writer and filmmaker Elvira Donis, writing in Italian. Steve Bradbury for Salsa, a collection of poems by Taiwanese poet Xia Yu from Chinese. Anne-Marie S. Drury for a collection of poems by Tanzanian poet Euphras. I usually ask them to write down a pronunciation guide for me here, but Kezelahabi from Swahili. Diane Nemec Ignatiev for Paranoia, a novel by Belarusian author Viktor Martinovich from Russian. Chen Chen Yiyang for Memories of the Cowshed, a memoir by Chinese author Qi Shiyan from Chinese, a very unusual story in that it protests the Cultural Revolution, but from within, not from a dissident point of view, but equally critical, and a book that circulates within China. Hilary Kaplan for Wilkeshake, a collection of poetry by Brazilian writer Angelica Freitas from Portuguese. Catherine Shelbert for Flametti, or The Dandyism of the Poor, a novel by German writer Hugo Ball from German. Joel Stryker for Birds in the Mouth, a collection of short stories by Argentine writer Samantha Schweblin, from Spanish, of course, and Sarah Thomas for Turnaround, a literary thriller by Spanish writer Mar Gomez Glez. Now, this year, it's sort of unprecedented. 9 of the grantees are with us tonight. I would like to ask them, and they have traveled from as far away as Rio de Janeiro, Hertenstein, Switzerland, not from the Middle Ages, I imagine, but definitely from another era, Rome, London, and San Francisco. So please stand. Miri, Neil, Clarissa, Anne-Marie, Chen-Chen, Hillary, Catherine, Joel, and Sarah. Thank you all very much.
My name is Marina Budos, and I'm here to present the Penn Phyllis Naylor Working Writer Fellowship, which is awarded to an author of children's or young adult fiction who's published at least 2 books and for whom monetary support is particularly needed to complete a book-length work in progress. And I wanted to add that I think the operative words here are working and monetary support. They do go hand in hand. This has been made possible by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor, who is in the audience, I believe. If Ms. Naylor could stand. Oh, there she is. What I wanted to mention about this award and what's truly unique about the Phyllis Naylor Award is that it honors the process of writing, providing support for a writer when they're still in that dark chamber of composing, when they do not know whether a finished book lies at the other end. And yet, as we all know, this is the most crucial and fragile moment for an author, when even the smallest nudge of encouragement can give us the courage to go on. My fellow judges, Co Booth and Louis Sacker, we were aware in reading the submissions that all were works in progress, all still finding their own way through the murk of drafting. And yet it was Lucy Frank's submission that instantly jumped out for its sheer inventiveness, its sparkling use of form. Lucy Frank chose what could be the most unpromising static of setting, 2 girls who are literally lying in parallel hospital beds, staring at a ceiling. And yet through her daring somersaults of language, through her rough, funny, and painful exchanges, we are exposed to the peril and the terror of 2 young people staring down their own illnesses, their mortality, and their futures. I should also like to mention, as is appropriate for an award with a children's and young adult author, that this one carries something of a fairy tale ending. Since the announcement of the award, Lucy Frank's unfinished manuscript has attracted publishing industry interest. Thus, it gives me great pleasure to honor Lucy Frank, who's the author of 7 novels for young readers, who before turning to writing full-time has done everything from being a vitamin pill shipping clerk to a children's clothing designer. Her books have been praised as funny, brainy, and sweet, wise, and terrifically well observed. We certainly felt that way. Lucy Frank.
Okay, well, a friend of mine said that a good way to get ready for a presentation is to practice singing your remarks. So this morning, trying to calm myself down, I tried setting my remarks to Turkey in the Straw, and didn't work that well, so I will just go right back to what I had originally planned to say. I'm just really enormously pleased that Phyllis Naylor is here tonight, so I can thank her in person. Thank you, Phyllis. I've spent a lot of time, a really lot of time, as my husband, who is here, and my friends also here in the audience can attest, wondering why I was writing about illness, when illness is something that I've so badly wanted to get away from. I've also wondered what possessed me when I decided to try to write this book in poems. So my profound thanks to the judges, and again to Phyllis and to Penn, for finding it a book worth writing, and for making me believe that I might actually belong in the company of all you wonderful writers. I'm pleased to say that I'm finally emerging from the murk that Marina mentioned. It's been a long, hard road. And to the professor who wrote abysmal on my freshman English paper, a resounding ha-ha. And I'm hoping now I can let it go. Thank you very much.
My name is Salvatore Scabona. On behalf of my fellow judges Jill Cement and Gary Steingart, I have the privilege tonight of presenting the Penn W.G. Sebald Award for Fiction to a fiction writer in mid-career. The award honors an author who has published at least 3 significant works of literary fiction with the promise of more to come. The prize was established by an anonymous donor. Would you stand up, please? To recognize a writer whose powerful and courageous writing honors the legacy of W.G. Sebald. This year, the award goes to the writer Aleksandar Hemon. Like Mark Twain and Vladimir Nabokov before him, Aleksandar Hemon has brought American literature a new idiom made both of his own life and of his own invention, and made our American language graver, bigger, truer, and even more ridiculous. In his 4 books so far, he reaches down your throat with dread and scrambles your lungs, all while you thought you were laughing. We hope for more, please. Aleksandar Hemon.
When I heard the news about this prize, in my confusion and delight, I thought that it was a midlife crisis award. And God knows I deserve that one. It is a particular pleasure to be given an award named after W.G. Sebald, who is one of my favorite writers, who has shown me and many others what literature not only can do, but what it must do. It's a great responsibility, apart from being pleasure, because I get easily discouraged. But when I see the work of someone like Sebald, who, despite the history of humankind, continue to write and continue to struggle with the questions that we have to struggle with daily, I aim to go on. I would like to thank Penn, the jurors who were so generous and kind to me, and I would like to thank people who helped me get to this point in my career, which is apparently midpoint. My agent, Nicole, and my steady editor, Sean McDonald. If after 4 books this is midpoint, then we have 4 more to go and we can retire. So thank you very much.
I'm Roy Blunt, and I'm here on behalf of my fellow judges, David Remnick and Terry McDonald, and to present the Penn ESPN Lifetime Achievement Award for Literary Sports Writing, which is being offered for the first time this year for a writer whose body of work represents an exceptional contribution to the field. I want to thank the donor, ESPN, who's already been recognized for the ESPN Book Award. And please ask the audience, you are the audience, I'm sorry, I'm asking the audience now to applaud John Skipper, John Walsh, and Gary Honig again. When it gets off into issues such as the almost mystical rightness of the distances between the bases, would-be literary baseball writing can get off into a lot of hot air. But the winner of this award is a writer who can get off into those matters, but he can also, whatever he gets off into in baseball writing is physical and visual. And for instance, this description of Willie Mays, who caught flies in front of his belt buckle like a grocer catching a box of breakfast food pulled from a shelf. All in all, I most enjoy watching him run bases. He runs low to the ground, his shoulders swinging to his huge strides, his spikes digging up great chunks of infield dirt. The cap flies off at second base. He cuts the base like a racing car, looking back over his shoulder at the ball, and lopes grandly into third. And everyone who has watched him finds himself laughing with excitement and shared delight. I'm proud to tell people that I once smoked dope with Willie Nelson and watched baseball with Roger Angell. Not at the same time, but and the baseball experience with Roger has stuck with me much longer, because I try to think of a ball player that Roger would be the equivalent of as a writer. You know, Ty Cobb, I don't know. Then I thought of maybe Derek Jeter, if Jeter had a better range factor and a little more pop. Because there is, after all, something exactly and profoundly right about the distance between the bases, and also something exactly and profoundly right about Roger Angell becoming the first winner of this prestigious award. Way to go, Roger.
Thank you, Penn. Thank you very much. Thank you, ESPN. I'm honored and a little surprised by the attention you're giving to a receding writer. And if I can take that thought a little farther, the editor and me would like to, up there where it said lifetime, just behind that, if you please, a paren that says, well, almost. I want to express my thanks to some extraordinary editors I've had down the years. William Shawn, Bob Gottlieb, Tina Brown, David Remnick, Gardner Bosford, and Ann Goldstein. Poor Tina never had a clue about baseball, but she really tried. And David, who knew everything about baseball, surprised me when he came along and suggested after a while that he'd like to see some copy of mine within 2 weeks of the end of the World Series. I was going to give some fairly gloomy, brief remarks about baseball here, but instead I think I'll tell you the story of a ball player, an old pitcher. Some of you may remember a name named Roger Craig, who pitched for the Dodgers in the 1950s, a pretty good pitcher, and then was one of the pitchers with the brand new terrible Mets. And the best pitcher they had, he lost 24 games the first year and lost 22 the next year, which wasn't easy to do. But this is going to take a little bit more than 90 seconds, but baseball does drag on, as you know. But then he did something even more amazing. He became a baseball coach and a pitching coach. And in the off-season once, he was working for the Tigers, working with some teenagers. He discovered a new pitch. He learned that if you took the regular forkball, which is thrown like this, and if you push it deeper into your fingers and throw it like a fastball, it becomes the split-fingered fastball, which saved a lot of careers for old pitchers and made the careers for some younger pitchers and made a pretty good career for Roger Craig. He is a tall North Carolinian with a funny nose and very close together eyes and a great talker. And I spent a lot of time with him learning this story about the split finger pitch. He later became a manager with the Padres and the Giants, and I spent a lot of time with him because he talked and talked, and I wrote and wrote down. And one year, I went back to Scottsdale, and he was there in left field, and I walked out and we shook hands, and there was another writer out there who said to Craig, Roger, meaning me, has a new book out this year. Did you know that? Have you read it? And Craig said, read it? He said, hell, I wrote half of it. And this is my way of expressing my thanks to all the dozens and dozens of pitchers and catchers and hitters and sluggers and Hall of Famers and rookies and coaches and fans and owners, yes, owners,
who filled up way more than half of my stuff and shared with me an obsession with this extremely beautiful and extremely difficult game, and which turned out most of the time to be about losing. It's been a great beat and a lovely ride. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kimiko Han. One of the great pleasures of being a judge is to work with other judges that one admires. And in my case, it was a real pleasure to work with Carolyn Forche and Terrence Hayes. And I'm now speaking on their behalf as well. The Penn-Joyce Osterweil Award for Poetry is a prize given in odd-numbered years that recognizes the high literary character of the published work to date of a new and emerging American poet of any age and the promise of further literary achievement. The winner receives a cash prize of $5,000. The Penn-Joyce Osterweil for Poetry was created through a grant from the Kaplan Foundation. We decided that we wanted a book that was moving, that was swiftly crafted, and without gimmick. And we three, after we had chosen Aishan Hutchinson's collection, Far District, we three emailed back and forth things we loved about the book. And so this citation really is a joint effort, although Terrence wrote it. Far District is a classic, which is to say a rare and exemplary first book. It reminds us of the power of individual poems bound by genuine insight at a time when so many debut poetry books seem inspired by flash, project, and novelty. This book is striking for the way Aishan Hutchinson's gorgeously textured language, shanty zinc, asthmatic whirl, pointions, stretches over far-reaching narratives of landscape and culture. With an ear tuned to the blue above and below, he captures the physical rhythms of his native Jamaica, as well as the broader metaphysical rhythms of distance and displacement, of traveling the narrow bridge separating past and present. One sees in Far District a lyrical concreteness of discernment, a warmth of intelligent, unelegant urgency. One sees a poet setting what will be the first of many great books on the shelf. We are fortunate to recognize Aishan Hutchinson at the outset of what will be a distinguished career. It is my pleasure to call Aishan to the mic.
Greetings, good night. I told a childhood friend of mine that I won this award from Penn, and he considers himself a wit and a poet too, and he sent me a poem that I should read here, which I won't. I don't want to disappoint him. But then he also said to me, you know what they used to say? I said, what is it? The pen is mightier than the sword. And I said, what are they saying now? And he told me the pen is mightier than the phone. So I might just want to add in iPods, computers, a whole list of things. I really want to thank not many people, but you know, if I start talking, I would have to talk about the entire island of Jamaica, which I feel in different ways supported me. But particularly the parish where I'm from, in the eastern part of the island, a place called Portland. So I want to thank everybody from there. Particularly my family is still there. I want to single out my brother, Gabriel Morgan, who is a towering strength for me. I want to also thank Valgina Mort, my wife, who is pregnant and will be having a baby in January. There's another pregnant friend of mine who's here tonight, Jermaine, who will be having a baby in a few weeks. Good luck. And, and I want to thank Penn and everybody responsible for putting this together. God blessings to you all. Thank you.
My name's Willing Davidson, and on behalf of my fellow judges, Jane Smiley and Samantha Chang, I'm happy to present the Penn Nora Magid Award, which is given biennially to a literary magazine editor whose intellectual discernment and wide range of interests recall the late Penn member Nora Magid, who was for many years the literary editor of The Reporter. This award is made possible by a fund established by Gerald Wheels. And I'm delighted that the award is going to Bridget Hughes, who's the founding editor of A Public Space. A Public Space does not have a long history, but it is already an incredibly storied history with an influence and renown out of proportion to its size. It has launched the careers of quite a few writers already, including some who have been on this stage tonight. And the nominating letters we received for Bridget, and by extension A Public Space, were so fervent that in the end we really had no choice but to give her this award. So congratulations, Bridget.
Thank you to the judges, and thank you to Penn. I will try to be quick. An editor's place, after all, is off the stage. But there are two people to whom I owe a special debt who I want to acknowledge tonight. The first is George Plimpton, from whom I realize every day how much I learned, and to whom I never got to say thank you. And the second is to Deborah Pease, who helped to start A Public Space. George used to tease me for being practical-minded, but he also taught me the great joys that come from doing impractical things, and Deborah made the impractical possible. She also reminds me, especially in moments of occasional doubt, that even in the 21st century, stories are essential, and that literature can still be a way of connecting with the world. I'd also just like to quickly thank all of the writers who have contributed to A Public Space, from Tahrir Square to Tokyo to rural Mississippi, and who inspire us to make a magazine worthy of their work. I'd like to thank our small but mighty staff, who makes it possible to do a lot with a little. And last but not least, I would like to thank the Hughes Gang for everything. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Eisenberg, the Executive Director of Penn, and I have the happy honor of closing this year's Literary Awards ceremony, which has once again celebrated the bond between Penn and the literary community. Tonight's ceremony holds a special place for that relationship, as it comes on the cusp of Penn American Center's 90th anniversary, which we will commemorate throughout 2012. There are very few consolations for the Yankees losing in the playoffs, even as they did, but one that I will cling to is to have the 91-year-old Roger Angell with us tonight. Otherwise, he would have been up there writing. Last words of gratitude, for indeed gratitude is at the center of literature. On behalf of Penn and its Board of Trustees, I offer congratulations to all who won awards and runners-up distinction, and grateful thanks to our thoughtful and hardworking judges and to the generous donors who sustain this recognition of high achievement and promise. We want to thank Chancellor Goldstein, President Kelly, and the Graduate Center of CUNY for once again providing us this wonderful room. We'd also like to thank Nicole Krauss for having introduced the evening with her embrace of ambiguity. And thanks to all our presenters and the Penn Awards Committee, especially our incomparable committee chair, Alice Quinn, and our children's book and translation committees for their help in selecting judges. And if we thank people more than once in an evening, it is because our gratitude is large. Our donors' generosity is the sine qua non of our literary awards. And so we would like to thank once again Dr. Edward O. Wilson, Harrison Ford, and the E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Fund, and Joan and Clara Bingham and Vanessa Lilly, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt and the Galbraith family, the anonymous donor who has funded both our Sebald and New Emerging Writers Award, Laura Pels and the Laura Pels International Foundation for Theater, Barbara Lee Diamonstein and Carl Spielvogel for happily reviving their essay prize, and our friends at ESPN, Gary Honig and John Walsh, and the leader of ESPN, John Skipper, who have made possible this new Penn ESPN Lifetime Award for Sports Writing. With equal heart, we also wish to thank Rodman Drake and Jackie Weld, the Kaplan Foundation, Gerald Wheels, the Rochelle Ratner Fund, and Phyllis Naylor. We also want to recognize the generous contributions from Amazon.com and the anonymous donor who together fund Penn's translation grants. Please join me in thanking all those who, most over many years, some for the first time tonight, allow Penn to confer our literary awards. We all look forward to the ceremony in 2012 because of their loyal support. In that regard, let me mention two donors who have created new awards that will be conferred for the first time next year. Kathleen Beckett, who is with us tonight, has generously established out of her own great goodwill and the wishes of her husband, in his memory, Stephen Kroll, who was so dedicated to Penn, the Penn Stephen Kroll Award, honoring the author of an illustrated children's book. And Kathleen, where are you? And Barbara Kingsolver, founder of the Penn Bellwether Prize for Socially Engaged Fiction, which Penn will begin administering in 2012. Our thanks to Barbara's literary agent, Frances Golden, and her associate, Sam Stoloff, who I hope are with us this evening. We're very pleased to add these fine awards to our roster for next year, the submissions period for which has already begun on October 1st. By the way, please visit Penn's website, penn.org, for information about next year's awards, and starting tomorrow, you can see excerpts from the published and new work by this year's honorees. Penn was founded on and remains guided by two principles: the protection of free expression and the celebration and promotion of literature. Our mission has been shaped by these cherished values over the course of almost 90 years. That mission is supported by the impassioned work of the literary community so evident here tonight. We thank you for that support. And last, to the PEN staff, whose professionalism and dedication are signatures of PEN's vitality and purposefulness. Great thanks to Antonio Aiello and Chuck Lung, who edit our website, Linda Morgan and Robin Deshotel, who helped to administer these awards, and those who helped put tonight together so well, Jakob Orshos and Beth Weinstein, who run our World Voices Literary Festival, which will begin next May, and most especially to our team on literary awards and membership, our associate Jasmine Davey, and the Nu Plus Ultra, our manager Elena Graydon. They showed graceful diligence at every turn. And in the list, his last term as president, and thus his last Literary Awards ceremony, is our stellar president. A salute and great thanks to Anthony Appia. Please remain in your seats so the honorees may now exit to the lobby where the table is laid for a reception, and you'll have the opportunity to congratulate them. You can also buy copies of their books from the booksellers set up in the lobby. We thank you for being with us this evening and hope to see you at many PEN events when we become 90 together next year.